Hey, aloha guys. Hopefully you're all doing well. In my YouTube, there's a playlist of hunting issues and politics. I kind of realized I didn't really explain why I'm even doing all of this. It's just kind of sharing information. So I wanted to share this experience that I had on the Hawaii State Game Management Advisory Commission, the history and some of those things with it, to maybe kind of explain why I'm doing some of this and maybe the path forward for hunters. Now, to start all this, I really do feel that the future of public hunting in Hawaii is at a place where they've always been at odds with extreme environmentalism and hunting. There's always been this kind of opposing sides. And right now I feel like the environmentalism side, if they do a few certain things that they're trying to do right now, that the future of public hunting will be forever diminished and never able to come back. And I don't think the future looks very good if some of these things happen. So I want to talk about these issues right now and hopefully maybe fix some of that, but I'm not trying to fix it. I just want to give my hunting community information so that they collectively can make the decision for themselves, figure out if what I'm saying is credible, and then hopefully decide that they want to fix it. It's a public thing. It's really up to all of us, not just me. But getting back to the Game Management Advisory Commission, that whole commission that I sat on for the state was formed by a bunch of hunters, mainly on Big Island, just because of a lot of eradications going on in fencing projects. I'm not saying it's bad, but there just were a lot of them that happened on Big Island, some very big fences, you know, tens of thousands of acres type of fences. And public hunters here would be dumb if they didn't think that those projects and those fences and eradications would stop there. They only got that big because funding was only so big. If they get more funding, environmentalism will probably take more areas, public land areas, to fence away and create environmental projects and get perpetual public funding for. I mean, that's just, let's be real, that's just the mode of operation for that group. So this Game Management Advisory Commission was formed out of that fear from hunters, and they got other outer island hunters that also see the same thing. There were even support on Oahu. Now, Oahu doesn't have a whole lot of public hunting, and even Maui as well, but you know, we got the whole state on board with this. And out of this commission, the whole intent was to form game management plans. And before I go any further, if you happen to be an environmentalist watching this, game management plans or running game management has nothing to do with exclusively being only sustained yield hunting. Now, this is something I cannot stress enough because it seems like the most extreme environmentalists, they view in everything in exclusivity. That if you're for this, you're against that, or if you're this, you're against that. It's this very, I don't know, indirect cancel culture, so to speak. It's crazy, it's stupid, but it is what it is, so I'm going to address it right now. Game management can also mean, in an area that is ecologically sensitive, that you eradicate the game, and you create a management plan around that, right? You're going to manage that for eradication. Another place may be an old cattle pasture that you're never going to restore, or a highly modified non-native forest or something like that. We can keep animals there for public resource, recreation, and heck, it might actually be good to reduce all of those exotic weeds anyway and control that. You can create a game management plan for that. Management plans can be very different in different places. So I do acknowledge these animals, if not taken care of in a right way, can be detrimental to the environment. No different than, say, fossil fuels, for example. If you don't use fossil fuels in a good way, you're spilling them all over the place, or not watching your emissions, or this and that, well, it would become acceptable and you legislate it away to nothing. But I digress. So we create ways to, you know, use them in a okay manner, so to speak. So just like game animals, we can create plans and ways to manage them in an okay manner depending on the policy or the priority in the area. Sound fine? Now, the typical thing is this is not fine with most environmentalists in Hawaii because they feel the whole landscape is sensitive environment and that we need to protect everything to death, irrespective of the vegetation or anything that's there. They don't want to talk in specifics. And anyway, getting back to the commission, so we're supposed to make game management plans. I have pushed on several initiatives that we're going to get those done, Pu'oa and this and that, and it just faced a ton of environmentalist opposition. Unfortunately, for hunters, the process in which to get a game management plan done lies solely with the approval of environmentalist groups. So the Endangered Species Recovery Committee, environmental assessments, but also may weight things heavily toward native species that, or endangered species that may or may not actually really be in the area, but it does go in the planning, and somebody that doesn't know any specifics will say, no, you can't keep the animals here, even though it may not be there. Or we may have already fenced off most of it and protected those plants that we need to. So we can't deal in specifics, and the environmentalist lobby seems to control a lot of the process that you otherwise would use to get this done. So I don't know where to go with that. But my term had expired in June of this year, and I did not choose to reapply. And I want to explain my decision for that. I had a couple other hunters ask me, and this is what brought this thinking up to me, was they asked, Brian, you know, you served on this commission for a couple years. What did you guys get done? And I got to be real honest with them. Nothing, really. Nothing meaningful. It was just communication with the DLNR. And I want to explain something really key here, because this is maybe for the other commissioners that are there, or future new ones that are going to be there. I want to explain to you something sad, but you should know. Our state government in Hawaii, they have this way, you know, local people, we like to circularly talk, right? We like to communicate like this. They call it ho'oponopono, so to speak, right? Keep talking and make it right or something. That's cool if you actually do it. But how our DLNR and state works is they make this thing where we all talk, but then they go on the side and do whatever the hell they want. Or worse yet, what they do is they go to the legislature in Oahu when they want laws or whatever done or funding. And they go, hey, even though you might have opposed it in the conversation or in the context that you were talking in, they go over to a legislator and say, oh no, we talked to the hunters and they support what we're doing. They support maybe getting rid of all bag limits, or they support closing off this area, or whatever it is. We talked to them. Just blatantly lying, or at least taking it out of context. So be very careful of that, where, you know, you're sitting there communicating with them, and this department and state thinks that that communication is consent for them to do whatever they want. They're going to say they talked to you already, even though if you take the whole context, you probably were against what they were trying to do, maybe. It's been done before. I've talked to legislators before, and they said, oh, no, Ryan, they told me they talked to you, da-da-da-da. I mean, total BS, and it's really sickening, but that's what happens. And especially happens when you're not there. So if you're from the outer islands, you know that most of Oahu, most of our government is controlled in Oahu, and the decisions are made on Oahu. Yet most of your public hunting, the best hunting, is on the outer islands. Well, the people that run DLNR know that. So when they talk to your legislators, you ain't there, and they tell them whatever you want. They said, oh no, we talked to the commission, we talked to all these hunters. They like it, they want us to do it, yada, yada, yada. So it's total BS, and I want you to be, you know, if you're a future commissioner or whatever, be careful of that. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to share is maybe a path forward. So given that situation, where it seems like you're at a political roadblock and all these things, and let's be real, 100%. Let's not, you know, kid ourselves. Public hunters and hunting, we're the political minority, right? Most of the voting populace is on Oahu, and if you take the outer islands, probably very few actual hunters exercise their right to vote. So why would legislators listen to you? So some of this is self-inflicted. You know, we don't have political influence or whatever to get. We got the commission done, mind you. That was very difficult, and I can go into some crazy details about how horse trading within the legislature and things like that actually gets something done. And if we didn't have the DLNR wanting to do aerial eradications and a law they want to overturn there, that we wouldn't have this commission. There was a trade that was made, and it's openly talked about. General public hunter yourself, maybe watching this, might not know that, and I can share that in another video. Should you want to hear anything, you know, put in the comments and let me know, and I'll try to talk about it, because there's so much to talk about that I can go off on all kinds of crazy tangents. But getting back to a path forward, you know, we're not a political majority. So hunters on the outer island, simply vote. You should know your local legislator and what they stand for. And I can tell you a lot of legislators are very environmentalist. Or even if they're not, the environmental lobby is so strong that should they go against in any way environmentalism, they'll be construed as against the environment or whatever. Like I said, that little bit of cancel culture in the beginning where you got to be very exclusive. So they go environmentalism in a lot of ways, and sometimes they got to trade things to get bills done or whatever. So just know that, and as hunters, we should probably vote better, get more involved in the political process. But aside from that, one of the political process was the commission. And did that get us anywhere? No, it didn't. In fact, getting it done, they removed a lot of the teeth, a lot of the power that it otherwise would have had. And then the department started supporting it, you know. So government has a lot of control over us. And, you know, that's just the way it is. You can't get reasonable things done when they want to maintain a status quo or protect a special interest group, in this case, probably extreme environmentalism. They get a lot of federal funding, too. But anyway, political process, but there's another way that we don't talk about, and that's, you know, winning the hearts of the public, the general public that doesn't hunt. The majority of people don't hunt. So a lot of hunters, we like to talk about food, right? Food and resources. Oh, bro, they're taking my food, or this and that. You know, what we're going to do about that? Well, you know, let's be real. That's great. Don't lose that narrative. That's important. But how's the average guy on Oahu, how's the general public relate to that? They don't hunt. They don't fish, maybe. They don't care about that. They still go to Times or Foodland or KTA or whatever to go get their food. They're not going to relate to that message. So, unfortunately, what environmentalists do on the opposite side is they go plant trees. In fact, instead of fencing actual native forests, sometimes they'll go fence a cattle pasture instead and go protect that to go build forests instead of protecting the actual forest. Why do they do that? Because they know they can get public people in there to plant trees, kind of get them in the mindset, get them in the narrative. And while they're there planting the trees, you tell them, look at that cow or look at that sheep over there. That made this place a pasture. That destroyed this whole place. But you're doing good. You're planting the tree. You can be with us. And the way you be with us is, you see these animals, they all got to go. They're bad. They're terrible. Now, mind you, that tree, depending on where it is, may or may not grow in the end. It may not actually be a viable project. And especially in the dryland forest, it's very expensive and cost prohibitive and unrealistic to build forests. It's probably more realistic to just protect the forest they have. But like I said, they're building narrative. Something that I think hunters should probably look at. Consider building narrative. Maybe we do that through media like this. Unfortunately, I'm doing this, and I may or may not want to do this, but I don't see anyone else being able to speak about these things in a good way. So I'm trying, and I'm going to put out information with that. But media, getting out reality, truth, maybe finding some of the more credible people in your hunting community to represent you. It's very difficult when everybody's a chief and they all like talk, right? Blah, blah, blah. And pretty soon you get 100 different messages. I think you need to unify behind one message. But what you also need to do is find the people that are most intelligent or most credible or most whatever to prove your point. You know, they got to be standing people of the community. They got to do good things. They got to be productive people. They cannot be just as willy-nilly, you know, I don't want to say it, but just willy-nilly broader kind that, oh, I just mad about my rights, or I just this or that. You know what you look like in front of the public? You look like an entitled crybaby crying about your rights being violated. Nobody cares about that, really. So I think what we should focus on is, you know, also, like I said, get involved in the public process and the political process and understand it. Try to understand it. It's very difficult to understand, but find people to learn from, or just do it yourself. And the other side of it is, we should probably build a narrative for the public that the public can understand and relate to. Maybe not so much focusing on the hunter sometimes, because there won't be one. Or maybe focusing on the resource, or focusing on the land, or focusing on maybe public access or public land ownership. Because in a lot of places where they fence this off, it becomes exclusive environmental land. Nobody else, the public ain't going in no more. That's it, you know. So maybe things about how these animals can be good. They manage vegetation in non-native areas. They do all kinds of really good things, but it takes, you know, some studying and some work to get there. So I just wanted to share this quick. I'm coming up on 50 minutes for the limit of IGTV, so I'm going to cut it here real short. Please check it out on YouTube if you can. It helps me out a lot. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. Aloha, and share with your friends. I'm going to need all the help I can. Okay, take care. Bye.